He's going to speak about building your brand in an age of social media. He didn't eat chocolate till he was 32, and now he eats it every day, which is a bit peculiar. Hopefully you'll explain that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together, raise the roof, Pete Durant!
Wow, how do you follow up throwing around T-shirts and music playing? Thanks for that tee up. So very quickly about the chocolate thing. Allergic to cow's milk growing up, this is the early 80s, and all chocolate at the time had milk in. So my mum just told me and everyone that I was also allergic to chocolate. She failed to tell me, as an adult, that that happened and that I could actually eat chocolate. And it wasn't until I was 32 where I went, Mum, cocoa and milk? That's quite a weird allergy combination. And she went, oh yeah, you can have cocoa. Brilliant, thanks Mum. 32, went to Selfridges, spent 200 quid on chocolate because I thought, go big, if you're never doing it again, just spend all the money. And yeah, now I'm an absolute addict. So yeah, I didn't think that was coming up. So yes, what are we going to do in the next bit of the keynote? So a lot of you will be doing marketing, you will be doing maybe social on the side. That's not how I see the world. What I'm going to do is portray how I look at brands, how I have built brands in the past, and how I put the essence of social marketing into the core of your marketing strategy. You'll get out of this also a framework, so you can kind of take something away and start layering what you're doing to it, see what you might be missing and what you might be doing loads of, and then bringing out some key things that really help you tell your story. So that's hopefully what we'll go through. Quite a bit, but we have lots of video also being played, so you'll get to excite and delight some jazzy videos, and one of Danny Dyer. So if you like Danny Dyer, hooray! If you don't like Danny Dyer, oh, I could skip it. Well, I might do a vote. If you all hate him, I might skip on. So, on one quick note as well, please meet Agatha. This is my daughter. She was born 12 days ago. I got an hour's sleep last night. So, there is a chance that I may doze off during this. If so, madam, if you could take the clicker if I do and just click through the slides and just let me be, because it would be really appreciated. So yeah, if I'm flagging halfway through, this is all of my energy today. So the drive home is going to be interesting. But let's start with the social media age. What do I mean by that? What are kind of 10 truths about what this actually means? So let's start talking about us as humans and how we process information. Now, Malcolm Gladwell in the book Blink, he talked about how we process information and how we create an emotional connection to it. And it is said that we do it in 30 milliseconds. That's just 30. We will see something and we will make an opinion, make a snap judgment, we will think. That's why if you slightly feel like you're falling, you might put your arms out, or you might do, I don't know, you might see a football team you don't like and you feel a little bit sick in your mouth when you see them lifting a trophy. You know, it's all of these things where we instantly will do it. However, when it's imagery and video related to it, it goes down to 13 milliseconds. 13 milliseconds to see something and to make an emotional connection or have an emotional relationship with what you're seeing. And that is incredible when you think of the social media age and when you think about your own media habits and what you're doing every day. And now we are just living in this very image-rich, video-rich world. As marketers, that is the thing that we are relying on, and that's how people are reacting. So what does that mean about our attention spans? Now, I haven't seen the things this morning because I had a health visitor come round who changed the appointment last night, so I couldn't have a morning's sleep. But some people might say that our attention spans are going. This isn't true. The fact is that we're spending all these times in a place where we are reacting and just naturally as humans processing imagery, video so much quicker that we've just become really, really brilliant at engaging and being in those spaces. I also think about attention spans as if you go back to 1966 World Cup final, if you were in the crowd then, I would bet all the money in the world that everyone wasn't just sitting there quietly watching the football with no distractions. They'll be talking to their friends, they'll be engaging, going to the loo, having something to drink. This idea that we were just able to just to necessarily sit there as humans, it's not true. Even if you're watching TV at home, you're engaging with your friend, your partner, maybe you picked up the phone in the olden times because someone was talking to you. So it's not about attention spans. It is about the areas that we are marketing in. And also, really importantly, 54%, this was a survey that was done, 54% of all brands are classed as neutral, as being the same, as not being identifiably different. So if you think about that, let's take tech as an example, and maybe you have a SaaS product, and you think it's brilliant, but you might be a marketer who's targeted with 5, 6 SaaS products, all from the same area, all email providers. All could tell you they can do basket abandonment emails at the same time. There isn't anything really different. There's nothing different, unique about the voice of that business. And you're in a world where everyone is being like that. So how do you cut through? You need to cut through, and you're doing it when the customer is making really quick judgments about you. Then also, very recently at the business I was working in last year, there was a big shift in that year from the majority of traffic coming through from website and desktop-based traffic into mobile traffic being the number one thing. So when you think about that as a context, you are going into the most personal thing that you own. If you couldn't speak and contemporary dance wasn't available to you, and you had to show people about yourself, your personality, your likes, your dislikes, maybe your secrets, maybe a guilty pleasure, maybe just some photos of you and your friends that give you really happy memories, and you can't speak, you can't communicate, and you can't dance, madam, I'm sorry, but you cannot, you could unlock your phone, and it's all there. This is the most personal device. It's an extension of you. And now we as marketers are putting messages into that phone. It goes into content, and you think about content, and normally if I'm speaking to someone on my phone on a video call, I've got a big face, really center of screen. I don't have long, wide things to cut down and lovely vistas and stuff in the background. It's eyeballs, it's emotional connection, it's faces. So what is it in our marketing that is going into this area where everything else is really personal, everything else is emotional, everything else is about me? We also have the death of linear. The whole idea that we can control our narrative has completely gone out the window, because not just because of this social media thing or this hashtag, but you've got people recommending your brand now. You've got so many different channels that to try and control your story and to control your message that you're getting out there is kind of dispersed slightly. And again, with the emotional part is actually, if you're going into an emotional device, what are you actually emotionally connecting? If you go to that SaaS product, it's not just SaaS products, by the way. I've mainly worked B2C in my career, but I always pick on this one because what is that email tool really going to do for me? How are you going to make me remember it? How are you going to make me love your brand? How are you going to make me connect to it? Sometimes you don't have a lot of control. You have to let go. You have to embrace the madness in the social world that sometimes is, as a marketer, really, really difficult, because you have so many channels, you want to do it, you want to make sure you see everything, and the idea that other people might have a voice and be controlling the narrative on your brand. So you have to, as marketers, have that essence of letting go a bit. Also, I feel you, I've been there, I live it, you guys surely all live it. There's so many channels out there. My God, even if you take affiliate, you could have about 50, you could skim links, and you've got Rakuten, and I can do something else here, and I've got referrals, and I've got SEO, and it's not just about Google, and it's got Bing, and I've got voice, and your head will explode. We have too many channels, very little time. So what can we do to help control our story and land our brand and grow it? We're also under incredible pressure to deliver, especially in the last 2 years or so, which, cycle comes around every 15 years or so. But you're probably sitting there and you'll go through all this and say, this is really nice, but I need to hit this sales figure next week. But you won't do it if you don't do the stuff that I'm going to sort of talk you through. And you might do it in bits, but it's about the focus of where you put that in your strategy and the importance of how you think about it. It's about being strategic, the social age, and it's about being practical. It's not just about me doing a talk and you saying this is great. It's about getting hands dirty, rolling up your sleeves and being able to deliver this. And lastly, what I'm doing here and what I talk about, these things will power your performance. So if you are a performance media nut, if you spend all your time in Google and Meta and that's your vibe, then more the power to you. I love you types of people because that's not how my brain works. But your performance will ever increasingly, in my humble opinion, be lessons and lessons because it's going to be driven by AI. It's going to be driven by Performance Max. It's going to be driven by the Meta AI that's becoming more and more relevant. So what can you do as a performance marketer to give yourself the edges? And it's going to be stuff like this that is where I believe, and the way that I take brands through, is how you get better results in performance media. So they're the 10 truths about practical stuff and us as marketers. But overall, the social age is essentially about shared experiences and creating emotional ties. Everything, the whole world of social media has become a massive thing because we innately, as humans, we like to gossip, we like to find out what's happening, and we like to get really fucking angry about stuff. There's kind of 4 main emotions, and the most powerful thing is anger, and the second is then happiness. So, and this is what has enabled us to do. This is the world that we're now living in. So us as brands are doing that. And if you look at society and how society grows, it is about people coming together, having shared experiences, emotional experiences around something. That might create a subculture, subcultures combined, and that creates the culture that we have together. So it's all about you with someone else, with a brand, with a football club, whatever it might be, coming together and getting those emotional experiences. And we as brands, we as businesses, that's what we thrive on. We don't just talk about, oh, I've just sold this. We then start talking about how are they going to become a brand advocate? How are they going to love our brand and be a fan of our brand, recommend our brand? You know, that's what we are really relying on. And that is kind of the underpinning of it. But because I am a wanky marketer, TIES is obviously an acronym. Yes, that's right, people. TIE stands for something, because where would we be in a marketing conference without something like this? We would be nowhere. TIES essentially is trust. So every time, every piece of comms that you do, you are building trust with your customer, with your potential customer, with someone who may not buy your brand but might know about your brand and eventually become your customer. So whether that's a brilliant interaction, utility, information, entertainment, wherever you're sitting on that matrix, you build trust by having that relationship time and time again. People will go to brands more and more because you have shared values, and I can express my identity through having this brand on me. I don't read The Sun because The Sun doesn't represent me and my views. It's happened all the way back 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago with newspapers. I don't read the Daily Mail, I'm sorry, if you're a big fan of that, but that is what you're doing. I'm saying I will wear this Rapa Nui thing. Or I work with this business because they really care about me, and that's kind of what defines me. I will recommend this technology because of this and because of how it makes me look and feel, because you have values and you have promises. And then you create exciting experiences. As I said, this could be an email. This could be an ad. This could be every single time that you are engaging, interacting with a customer or potential customer, and you create these exciting experiences and you give that emotional feeling. So, of course, that is what TIE is, and that is what I class as social marketing and what we should embed. If you want a real shortcut, think of it as comms to consumer experiences across everything that you're doing. Why is the big question. Why do I believe this? Well, and why do I think you should do it? Well, first of all, because then you can employ me to do it. Yes, great. But also, it's how our minds work again as humans. I said before about the social media, being really taken off because of our innate need for gossip and how it naturally played. It's the same with tracking devices, health tracking devices. They have a really bad rate of continual usage because being told that you're not doing something right is not necessarily a natural human condition versus social media. And it's kind of how it plays into how we are. So we evaluate brands using emotions rather than information. That's fact. That's not just me saying it, that's fact. Some very, very clever people much cleverer than me, said so I believe them. Research has said likability is more predictive of whether ads improve sales rather than just whether or not it's a product thing. Positive emotions make customers more loyal than trust. And emotions are also the primary reasons why we choose brand name products. My wife, who love her to bits, but she says that ibuprofen doesn't work and only Nurofen works. It is exactly the same. Anyone else feel like that? No? Yeah, there's at least one hand up there. And it's the same drug. But because it's Nurofen, she has this emotional connection to it. It saved her hangovers at uni, I don't know. That's the relationship she had, because that's how our minds work. But also why we should be doing it is because it works for business. More efficient, more valuable, more sales when we take an emotional, social approach to our overall marketing. So that's the theory. That's kind of why, and kind of why I come at it in the way I do. It's about making your marketing social. It's about making the customer the most important part of your journey. So how do we translate all of that into your marketing strategies and activations? So let's take the customer to start with. Nice stock footage from Google, works a treat. Thank you very much. It's looking for those magic insights in the audience. If you say, oh, we kind of generally know our customers, or we sell a discounted perfume and we were looking for people who like a discount, that is not a customer segmentation. That is not knowing about what drives them emotionally in the place that you are going to play in their lives. Because as you can see with this, for one person, that chap on the left, he's loving it. The people behind think it's the best thing they've ever seen. And then he's asleep, right? It's not for him. So if you're looking at effectiveness and you're looking at your performance effectiveness, you might be at the moment going to this group. And actually, by looking and really looking into your magical insights and doing work on your customers and looking at what motivates them and drives them and those potential customers and segmentations, then that will help you be more effective. It will help you make those emotional connections and improve your comms. It also helps you discover your role in their life, your voice, and your USP. So you might say, our USP is this, but the reality is if you're price-driven or even product-driven, unless you have something so bespoke, it is likely that it will be copied. So you need to be more than that in order to do what you need to do. A really good example of this was when I was at an activewear business, and we were researching people who were really driven by sustainability because we were a sustainable product, and we guessed that those are the people who are our bullseye. And we talked about what they cared about, and one of the big things we thought would be the planet and climate change and things like that, but it wasn't, it was people. And we were doing all this amazing stuff for people in the business and in our supply chain, and we never used it in our comms. So we were just missing this really huge, important tenet of what we were communicating. And it's also about when you're looking at your audience, you might have 100% of these are total. It's also about looking at who's your bullseye. So these aren't real, these are made up, but you could have a brand and say, right, these are two people who do yoga and they have completely different places in their lives, but they both want to use our product. The lady on the right, the lady on the left, probably motivated in different things, have a different lifestyle, care about different things. So it's also about putting a bullseye in and really understanding what your comms are doing for that person, and then also making a decision on, will they come along with me? You know, I'm going to do a cooler, younger brand, but actually I'm going to do it in a way that doesn't alienate, and you can help make those decisions. Otherwise, it's just a yoga person. What does that mean? We just know that they like leggings. You know, from a comms point of view, that makes it really difficult. And also, and the last thing is about the tone of voice. I would argue, so these are called brand archetypes if you don't know them. They are a useful tool that people use to help you define who you are as a brand and your personality. They're really good to get people around a room to then go, actually, guys, who are we? Are we the ruler? Are we this? Are we that? What's our three? What's our number 1 and 2 on the side? I find these really useful about defining your voice and really working out your USP in terms of what you can communicate. So if it's about the way you make it and it's about premium and it's about craft, how do you then take that to your business? So again, take the SaaS example, loads of tech, loads of emails on LinkedIn, really boring for a potential buyer. But actually, if you go through this process and you are all about being the creator or the lover or the jester, suddenly you can start seeing a route. You can see your marketing plans. But they are two really important things that I underpin. Audience segmentation, the role of your brand, the story and USPs, and then understanding what those emotional ties you are doing. So if that's your story, and that's the story that you're communicating, this emotional thing, how do you take it to market? Do I immediately go into advertising and start doing some PPC? I seem to be picking on that. How about some display or some lovely retargeting? No, I build it and I look at what we're doing across these 4 customer moments. That is stimulus, which is the first moment. What are we doing in our plans and how are we communicating with our customers, potential customers, the first time they meet us? And what is the plan and what is in our budget about that initial contribution to their knowledge about you? If they don't know about you, they won't buy from you. And the first time they know about you, what is that experience that then you are doing? That is vitally, vitally important when you think about all of those contexts I spoke about before. The second thing and the second pillar, and the way I sort of split budget or build it, is about experiences. Now, you're going to say probably, we do a lot of this. But some of this you might go, oh, we do a lot of it, but you know what? It's a bit of an afterthought. I kind of just let the social media team just crack on, and do what they're doing. And I haven't really thought of it through the lens of, this is a direct moment that someone is interacting with my brand. What is it through these story things that we are bringing across? Is my website and my app the same as my social media platforms? What's their relationship between them? Not necessarily about how people are moving around between them, but just what are those emotional interactions? Same with catalog, DM, email, customer service, events, sampling. Looking at it under that and looking at it through that story lens. The third thing is those indirect moments and actually pulling that out in your strategy, not to be a forgotten or a second thought. This is a vitally important pillar that I say around marketing in a social age that you need to invest in and to leverage. That is your influencers. That doesn't have to be it's someone on Insta or TikTok. That is someone who influences your potential buyer. So that could be mums. That could be anyone remember, I don't know if they still do it, the Red Bull, when they used to pay people in universities to be Red Bull advocates, and they used to have those cars. Anyone remember those? And you just see a Red Bull, but that's how they built their brand. That's a fundamental thing. They weren't going onto TikTok and doing all of that. They were purely looking at, if I want students to drink this, I need other students to tell them to drink it. So it's thinking about that and building out your influence strategy that way. PR, still really important, and we'll get to a little bit about that in a second. And partnerships as well. Again, not, what are we doing with partnerships, but how are we leveraging partnerships to tell this story, who are like-minded people who we can combine with and create stuff. And then what are we doing in these indirect moments that we can potentially pull into our first moment? And sometimes there is going to be some crossover. And then the last one is advocacy, their moments. This is where, when I say you're not in control, right? This is the bit that you want to go from there. People, customers, recommendations, reviews, loyalty programs, staff. And I'm probably guilty of this as well. How many of you have thought about how do you properly get a recommendation loyalty system within your staff in your business? 20% of you maybe, I'm guessing, have maybe even thought about it. But essentially, if you're a business of 100 people, that's 100 advocates, 100 influencers who could bring 2 to 3 people into your brand, and so on and so forth. So it's like, how are you leveraging all of those things, and what is your strategy and plan within that? What that gives you, so that's telling your story. You've defined your story, you're telling it as a marketer, and all of these things will be bringing in revenue as well. And I'll talk about that very shortly. But what this sort of stuff comes out, you start getting loads of content out. You start to get loads of assets. You start to get loads of really, really interesting stuff that then you can start using somewhere else. And where do you use that? Well, you use that in your media. So it's second, it's not forgotten. It can be whatever your media mix is. This is a mere example, a smorgasbord, if you will. But if you take social media marketing, if you take Meta, just as a pure one, ideally, you'll be looking at an ad suite, if you're just launching of 3 or 4 ads. In that, you want quotes from trusted sources. let's say you're activewear, you want GQ, you want men's health, men's running, women's running, whatever. That's your PR. And you don't just want 1 or 2 quotes. You've got a whole year's worth of building and spending your media. So you want to be changing and updating your assets. So that's why you already made that important. And then that's powering your performance down there. Second ad, you probably want to use a recommendation, an influencer's ad, someone talking about your product, telling you how brilliant it is, or a combination of that. Right now, you might be in a situation, I've been there as well, where you go, I've got these, I need these, oh my God, I need some influencers. Oh, that's going to be another 30 grand, and I'm only getting this one little hit. It's not really going to have an impact. Rather than actually having a year-long program that is driving this and driving better performance, so your media team can then go, that one worked really well, we'll have more of that. Well, that's great, we can kind of and do it that way, rather than it being this pain in the arse on the side. So the media then takes that and then powers performance. So that's overall strategy. That's kind of how I build brands. That's how I look at brands. And I look at those customer experiences and see how we can improve it. The big in the middle there, the immediate, interactive, and immersive content. This is the fun bit, I promise. I know we're all marketers, but, you know, there's been a lot of marketing today already. So let's watch some fun video. This is around content strategy. In the social age, a lot of people in the past did Hub, Hero, and Hygiene. Quick hands up, Hub, Hero, and Hygiene. Anyone heard of that? A few tentative fingers. So that is a strategy of how you split your budget, right? So you have your hero content, you might spend the most, it's your big stuff, it's your big whizzy, maybe a TV ad or something like that. You have your hub, this is maybe your day-to-day content, maybe your social media teams, and then hygiene, this might be, you know, just the stuff you have to do. It might be SEO content, that's that stuff in the background. I don't think that really works as a strategy, because if you're B&Q or a hardware brand, hygiene would be 1,000 videos of products for your website to help you with SEO and conversion, but that might cost you more than your hero piece. So I don't think it quite works. For me, I try and look at it again, social age, through the lens of the customer. So that's immediate, interactive, and immersive. And you can do that through creating, curating, or collaborating. So what is immediate? So immediate is that thumb-stopping content. That is 10 seconds or less. It's the stuff that will stop you in your tracks, give you that emotional connection, and then you move on. As a brand, you might do multiple of these over a time and build that relationship up. Or someone might go, I really love that. I'm going to move on further. So these are just some GIFs that were made when I was at Endemol Shine. We were working on Big Brother. I just love that. I've used straighteners in the past. I've definitely done that. Yes, that's definitely been done. And I've definitely stared at a whiskey as well. So this is immediate stuff. So what are some of the tools to do for that? So this is compression. This is sort of a 6-7 second ad that was played before, it was on Snapchat actually from Ola Yule. So just really simple, condensing your story. So you're getting all of this stuff through into the immediate stuff. 10 seconds is all about things like compression. Other ways that you can do it, fun things. This is a TV show called Teen Taxi. This was an ad for the show to make people watch it. For this, you've got framing. So this is a little bit, I normally do a sort of a big thing around content, but for this, just to give you a little bit of a sample, the way that you might translate this story in these pillars, framing is a really important device for you to then take this and take this out there. So that's cutting up your screen, not just a square, not just a rectangle, but it can be multiple different ones. And also repetition. So you saw the GIFs worked really well, but also you can then repeat it.
And turn. On the ball! Now don't look at that dog. Yeah, that was good.
So this was a show. So this was a show about a camera in a car, watching people live their lives and talk in the car, and then obviously he was teaching his daughter to drive. This is an example on TikTok from the Washington Post. Again, really brilliant at condensing your story down. And I think it's a really good exercise to say, if I had 2 lines to tell the story of my business and land it, how would I do it? These guys, they've got lots of money and they're a news site, so they have people working on it. But I think it's really nice as an example of just distilling your story. He says, hoping it's playing. Yes, there we go. So that's what they do. They have these big stories, these really in-depth things in the paper, and then they have a team translating it to just give you that snippet and headline in social. So you might want to go and read that, and they enable you to do that. So when we went before, we had the immediate interactive and then the immersive. This is the immediate part of their immersive content, which is their article. Again, if you're B2B, that might be your white paper, your thought piece. But actually getting someone to that in the first place, you have to go through some more steps. Let's do some more examples. So Heinz, really simple visual way of distilling their story, which is essentially 100% natural ingredients, if I'm assuming sugar is natural. But I just like the creative because it's just a really simple way. It also gets you thinking about, actually, what would be my one line and how might I reflect that? This is Google, another really good one.
Ready, set, sell!
That's it. And that's what we're talking about. These immediate things, you see that, you emotionally react to it, and you think, I'll remember that. And if you're laddering that with comms over the year, you do that. This is one from when I was at BAM. So this is sustainable activewear. And this is also about framing. So rather than just keeping a static frame, we played around with some movement, played around with a frame and some movements. Now, I know there'll be some of you going, I mean, these are great, Pete. You showed me Google, you showed me Heinz, you showed me BAM. These are all great examples. We can't afford to do that. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples where you might be able to use just static imagery. Or you could maybe, if you're a coffee shop, you could just go and do a bit of graphics and go and film someone just making coffee and draw a face on it. Did you like that? Did that make you want a coffee? See, it works. You see, it works. And then on this page, this is another BAM one. Again, we couldn't go out and make loads of video, so this was about taking our e-commerce shots and translating them. So again, it's just the thought process of what you can do, what you can play with. And actually, if you do just have statics, you can play with them and do this type of stuff. But if you've built that that structure and framework, then hopefully you'll have a lot more of these assets coming through. And this is really just a shorthand of how you translate all of that content into the audience. And then lastly, here's Mr. Clean from years ago in the Super Bowl. There he goes. Oh, it's not nice, but I can't stop watching it. It's slightly hypnotic. Oh, I'm just wondering how long I can play it for. But it's really simple. Like, it's like, all joking aside, it's a really simple asset. It's a really simple technique of just rotating that thing round and round, and it's still on the screen. So then we get into interactive. So this is a little bit longer, right? So this is, you've done your 10 seconds piece. Maybe you've warmed up the audience. Maybe you want to create a suite. So maybe they're ready to watch 30 seconds. Maybe up to a minute 30. Maybe it's a game or an interactive. Do you still have interactive MPUs? Maybe it's a game on your site. It's just basically how do you get people impressing on you more. So it's less of that little snackette and more of a starter? Terrible analogy, never thought that one through. Here's the guys at the Washington Post again who were just conducting an interview. So you might think, oh, we've got loads of interviews, maybe we're going to do a podcast. How the hell do we translate that into video? So here's just an example of how they do it.
What can people do to help those affected by the Surfside condo collapse?
There are a ton of places you can donate. The Support Surfside Fund is accepting donations and giving money to organizations that are helping families with housing and mental health services. Operation Helping Hand was set up as a way to provide relief after hurricanes, but they've reactivated after other disasters like the Surfside condo collapse. You can donate to them too.
If you look at the creative part of that, it was a two-shot. One of a guy, one of a screen. Cheap as chips to put together. Probably used a phone to do it, well, almost definitely did. Really quite easy and accessible ways of doing it. So there's lots of ways that you can think about translating that. Now I'm going to do the vote to see if you want to see Danny Dyer or not. If you don't vote, it is like the election. You will get a Tory party. So, I went politics. Who here hates Danny Dyer? Let's put it this way. Okay, 3 people. So you 3 people at this point, I suggest you look away. But what was about this? This was a monologue to promote The Wall, which is a BBC One game show. But really importantly about this is what I was saying about faces. So this is a little bit longer what we were asking for an audience. We're using Danny to be the draw, to make people come and want to watch, because if you don't like him, you're probably not going to watch a show hosted by him. But if you like him, you're going to be drawn and want to listen. And everything is shot as a close... There's the odd mid-shot, but it's kind of a close mid-shot or slightly tighter. So it's face on your phone all the time. So it's almost as if he is your WhatsApp video calling him. I was going to say Skyping. No one says that anymore. It's a bit like saying I'm doing the hoovering, isn't it, Skyping? I don't feel sorry for them. I do a little. But anyway, so here's just an example.
Have a listen. There can be no great accomplishment without risk. Who said that? The first geezer to land on the moon. You know what I'm talking about. Proper geezer. He's got a point, though. We go through life saying, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. Well, just stop it. It'll do you nothing. Stop wasting time. Start doing. Grab life by the horns. Hold your nerve. Jump. I mean, what's the point if you ain't going to take a risk once in a while? Do you know what I mean? Step outside your comfort zone. That's when the real magic happens. My motto, be bold. Win, voila. Happy days. Lose, you'll be a little bit wiser. Believe in yourself. You're a nutty salt and I like it. Follow that and good things will happen. Double naughty. Got to be worth a go, innit? Drop it.
So with this also you had the using text and imagery on the screen together. So using not just a subtitle, but actually using graphic to move the
Give us loads of readies, you mug.
like that.
No regrets, people. I'm rooting for you.
Personal thing and little side story. Again, I wasn't planning on saying this, but if you hated it, I wrote it, so don't tell me. But I also shot it and I did all the location and stuff. And we shot this near his house, and it was a perfect place where there was trees on either side, so no one could see him drive past and be a pain in the arse. And it was a perfect place where we could get a walking tracking shot. So he by the way, was really good. He read the script, immediately remembered it. So he was very professional. But he walked through, and then after we'd done, he said, I'm glad that went well, but you do know this is the local dogging site. It's a claim to fame. It's at Danny Dyer to a dogging site. Here's some more. That should have started. So the one on the right that played over, again, that's just graphic imagery, right? So if you don't have the assets, you can still potentially do stuff that's fun and exciting that gives someone that emotional reaction that you are asking for. And the one on the left was, it's a hotel that employs refugees and is a really great social enterprise. COVID happened, they had nothing to talk about, they had nothing to do, but then they started using TikTok and using music as a tool that you can use to give that emotional connection to and have some fun. So just some different examples of that. I'm going to go through some more just to fill you up here. So again, left one is about stills. The one in the middle is a B2B, it's a website hosting company, and I think they just paid for a bit of footage rather than shooting something. And then the one at the end is just fun because a girl doesn't know where water comes from. So let's just show this. So that was for an interior design show. I'm sure you all watched it. And after watching an advert, thank you. Middle one, then the web hosting.
What the? What the is going on?
The simplicity is brilliant. You reacted, and again, it's just lifted them up from being just somewhere where you can buy a web domain to meaning a little bit extra. And then last one, this is again just the way that we cut it down, but it's just one of my favorite. This show was made for BBC Three, so definitely not my age group, and yet I think I like the show more than other people did, but bless her. I'll just play it. He hopes. Come on.
What if you're not living at home and all of a sudden you've got to pay your gas, your electric, your water rates?
You have to pay for water?
Yes, it doesn't come out the magic tap.
What?
Yeah, everyone gets water, Caitlin. We have to pay for it.
You have to pay for water?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this because of Brexit?
So again, we had a whole show. If you take the guys off, it's just taking small bits, making people react, and making them feel how they should be watching the show and going on. And then that leads to immersive. Of course, I talked about that. That can be your white papers, your website, longer content. It could be a live, half-an-hour live. It could be anything where you're asking someone to really spend a lot of time. It could be podcasts. It could be your YouTube strategy. So that's how it all adds up together. That's me. So essentially, building your brand. Let's get the audience segmentation, the role of the brand story, and really find your voice, your USP, and what your emotional connection is going to be with that customer, and then being able to repeat that at scale, focusing on and really making the most important being those 4 moments in a customer's or a potential customer's life cycle, getting all of that juicy, wonderful stories that are coming out of that story engine, taking it through that immediate interactive and immersive filter, and then using that to then power your performance, to give you the edge versus your competition, and to make your media work as hard as possible so that you don't have to rely just on the AI. And that's it. Thank you.
Pete Durant. Once again, Pete Durant.
Hello, mate.